But if the shroud is truly from the 1st century, an event from the Bible might reveal an answer.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the most compelling mysteries that haven't gotten as much attention as their more popular counterparts.
My brother is wearing the other one, but it's dirty. It's got footprints on it.
Number 50, the Black Mausoleum. In life, George Bloody Mackenzie brought about the cruel mistreatment and executions of hundreds who opposed Charles II. In death, his legacy has taken on a much more paranormal bent.
They say that the dead can't hurt you, just the living. But try telling that to the hundreds of people left with scratches, bruises, and choke marks that have visited this very graveyard.
He was buried in the same location where he carried out those infamous prosecutions, which may have contributed to the alleged dark energy there today. It all began in 1999 when an unhoused man stumbled upon a mass site of remains belonging to Mackenzie's victims.
Now, some sources say that the floor beneath the man gave way, plunging him into a pit containing more bodies, even rumours that it was a plague pit. This is unconfirmed, but most of them were still in a state of decomposition.
Since then, several people who visited the Black Mausoleum have reported being injured by unseen forces. One man even attempted to perform an exorcism, only to die shortly afterwards. Whether the reactions to the site are mere coincidence or the work of an evil spirit is still in contention today. Number 49, Miami Circle.
In the heart of downtown Miami, between the skyscrapers and hotels, lies a mystery.
When William Brickell first uncovered several intricate holes carved into limestone in 1998, he had no idea what he'd stumbled upon. They formed a perfect circle, some containing various ancient artifacts. Some believe it to have been the work of the Tequesta, an indigenous tribe that lived there thousands of years beforehand. However, the discovery of weapons made of basalt has kept that theory from being accepted. It's also unclear what the circle was used for. The most common guess is that it was the site of living quarters or religious ceremonies, while naysayers use a nearby septic tank to claim it's merely a dumping place for sewage. Whatever the truth may be, it's shown that humans lived there much longer than we once thought.
The remains of shellfish once eaten on the site were carbon dated. The results were sensational. The earliest date is 730 BC.
Number 48, Proto-Elamite script. Many languages span across several millennia, with their translation giving us valuable insight into the communities that use them. Some remain undeciphered, including one of the oldest known in the East. Proto-Elamite is believed to have stemmed from an even older Sumerian script and consists of both numerical and logographic symbols. Over 1,000 tablets have been discovered, but none have been decoded. Historical context suggests that they were primarily used to track various inventories, although this hasn't been fully confirmed. The hieroglyphs found on some of the slabs are a combination of literal and abstract signs, requiring intense analysis. With there being so many scripts to comb through, we still aren't any closer to understanding them, even after decades of trying. Number 47, the Isdal woman.
Jeg var litt forundret over hvor vi skulle hen. Jeg synes det var ufremkommelig, og det var jo ikke vanlig turvei.
Technology has made it easier to identify those that have passed, but there are some cases that evade even the most advanced techniques. In 1970, a family went on a hike in Norway where they stumbled upon the charred remains of the Isdal woman. An investigation began soon after and brought about far more questions than answers. She used 8 different identities, making it impossible to pin down her real one. Her cause of death is also unknown. A self-inflicted demise is the most supported theory, but some believe she was a spy that met a more insidious end. More developments have been made throughout the 21st century, but despite them, we're still no closer to learning who she is than we were decades ago. Number 46, the Bada Valley megaliths.
It's got 2 different compartments. I wonder what the hell it was used for.
Upon first glance, they appear to just be a collection of sculptures. However, there is much more to the hundreds of Bada Valley megaliths than first meets the eye. Despite being found in 1908, everything from their age to their purpose is debated. There are several local legends about them, including one that claims the statues have the ability to move on their own.
It's a really strange place, this. Mesmerizing.
There are even tales of purported criminals being turned to stone as penance for their crimes. It isn't even known what culture is responsible for them, as they're different from the megaliths constructed in other areas of South Asia. To top it all off, there hasn't been much research about them. making them one of the most perplexing mysteries from ancient times. Number 45. The Sword in the Stone.
The story describes a gleaming sword thrust into a huge stone, and only the rightful king of Britain could pull it out.
You may have heard of Excalibur, a fictional sword pierced through a stone that was only able to be pulled free by King Arthur. There's a chance the story may be rooted in reality. According to legend, Saint Galgano Guidotti was told by an angel to give up his worldly possessions, and in response, he stabbed his sword through a rock. Despite the hard surface, it supposedly went through easily. This sounds like nothing more than fiction, but testing done on the weapon has found that it's consistent with those used during that period of time.
So I'm convinced that that actually is the original sword in the 12th century.
It's still unclear how he would have achieved this, creating a mystery that neither history nor science can answer. Number 44. The Newton Stone. Move over, Stonehenge. In Scotland, there are 2 engraved stones, one that's written in Pictish and one that's completely untranslatable. The latter is known as the Newton Stone, and it has perplexed historians ever since it was found in 1803. There are multiple carvings in it, including one that's written in Ogham, a medieval tongue. There are over 15 different possible interpretations for that inscription alone, making it impossible to pin down. That's only the first part of the elaborate mystery. The other engraved message is in an unidentifiable language, with guesses ranging from Phoenician to Hebrew to it all being fake. Though experts insist it isn't a hoax, both translations still elude them to this day. Number 43. Linear A.
We know so little about the Minoans, partly because we cannot understand their inscriptions.
We can know so much about how a language is used without understanding a single word. While it has been confirmed that Linear A was primarily used in religious writings during Minoan rule, there haven't been any advancements in terms of translating it. It's a complex system, with hundreds of signs being used to write it, unlike its much more understandable successor Linear B.
Linear B was relatively easy to decipher because it's a known language. With Cretan pictographic and Linear A, we may be dealing with languages that we don't know.
There are a limited number of samples. The cherry on top is that the text isn't written in the form of sentences, but rather a series of short repetitive phrases. There's even a theory that it wasn't the only speech used during the time period, adding another complex layer to it that ensures it won't be solved anytime soon. Number 42. The Hal Cephaliini Hypogeum. Sometimes mysteries are exacerbated by human error, and this is one of the best examples of it. After being accidentally discovered in 1902, several human remains and items buried around them were disposed of without being properly looked over beforehand.
What the unwitting workers have unearthed isn't merely a lost underground temple or ancient sanctuary, but a massive subterranean necropolis.
This has made it even harder to understand the Hal Cephaliini Hypogeum, an underground cemetery that may hold even more secrets from a past time. There are several small burial chambers that supposedly lead to even larger ones, but the areas are so small that it's impossible to know for sure.
It extends on 3 different stories, about 7-point-some meters below ground. It covers an area of about 5,400 square feet.
There are several questions left unanswered about the mass graveyard, including how ancient populations were able to access it in the first place, as there is no evidence anywhere of a potential entryway. Number 41. The Phaistos Disc.
The oldest written artifact in Europe.
Who could have guessed that there were so many languages left to decipher? Uncovered in 1908, Crete's Phaistos disc has kept both natives and tourists perplexed for over a century. There are dozens of signs laid into a spiral, and linguists don't even know how to go about reading it. There's a strong case for it not having been written in a traditional pattern, making any attempt at translation pure speculation. There have been over a dozen attempts at decoding it across several different dialects, and none has come close to finding out the true message. It's been so hard to figure out that some have called it a hoax, and a lack of any dating further corroborates that theory, though linguists insist it isn't the case.
I still believe that it's 100% a forgery. There's no question in my mind.
Number 40. Devil's Kettle Falls.
You'd think when water tumbles down a waterfall that you'd be able to see where it's going. Even questioning it seems absurd, like the answer is right there in front of you. But Devil's Kettle Falls in northeast Minnesota isn't like most waterfalls.
Nature has a way of making some of its own mysteries. In Judge C.R. Magny State Park, there lies a waterfall with a seemingly bottomless pit. The river splits into two thanks to a massive rock. One stream is well recorded and merely continues downstream. The other, however, is a different story. It leads into a pothole that's at least 10 feet deep, but no one knows for sure. Visitors have reported throwing items into it, only for them to not reappear. This has created a plethora of theories about where the lost items could have ended up. A dye tracing experiment was planned for 2017 but was cancelled before it could be carried out, ensuring that the truth would never be found out.
We probably won't learn the fate of Devil's Kettle Falls until some researchers get down there and try to track the water that's running with the devil.
Number 39. The Rohans Codex. Could someone really have written an entire book as a prank? According to historians, that very well may be the case for Hungary's Rohans Codex. The manuscript is wild from beginning to end, written in an unspecified language or system of writing and with an unidentifiable author. Spanning 448 pages, it's so in-depth that it seems hard to believe it was all written for an ancient bit. Despite all the attempts to understand the work, none has come close to the answer. Besides the text itself are several illustrations depicting various battles and religious figures, making it even harder to pin down. Even though it's impossible to tell now, the truth will be shocking, whether it's real or not. Number 38. The Ellinikon Pyramid.
And this is the eastern entrance of the Pyramid of Ellinikon.
The pyramid complex found in Giza, Egypt is widely known to many. However, what's less circulated is that they weren't the only country to master the structures. There are several located in Greece, with the most well-known being the Pyramid of Ellinikon. They weren't as large as their African counterparts, yet they were utilized for similar reasons, housing their dead. Originally, Ellinikon was thought to have been built in 300 BCE. A study done decades later revealed that it may have actually been built much earlier, closer to 3000 BCE. Should that be true, it would make it around the same age or even older than the ones found in Egypt. Even that research has been harshly criticized, making it impossible to discern the truth.
Here we go, let's have a look at the side of the pyramid. It's beautiful. I mean, look how straight the edges.
Number 37. The Maori Man.
The figure is the largest depiction of a human ever created. It's even visible from space.
Not all unsolved mysteries come from ancient times. There are plenty that have come to be in modern times, including the symbol simply known as the Maori Man. Built and found in 1998 in Australia, it depicts an Aboriginal man hunting with an unknown weapon. Despite being one of the largest glyphs on the planet, it was discovered entirely by chance.
The Maori Man is 4.2 kilometres long, 28 kilometres around it. The markings are around about 35 metres wide.
Before much outside research could be done, the government closed off the area, along with any chances of understanding the piece. The biggest theory to date is that it was created by United States citizens, thanks to phrasing used in anonymous messages and physical evidence bearing the American flag. Yet dissenters consider that to be red herrings, and instead credit a now-deceased local artist.
It's a great secret, and so it shall remain.
Number 36. The Skulls of Motala. Human remains being found isn't anything new. Yet the conditions of those found in Sweden between 2009 and 2011 immediately stuck out due to the inclusion of wooden stakes impaled through two skulls. While radiocarbon dating was able to deduce that the bodies were from the Mesolithic era and that the group consisted of 4 men, 2 women, and an infant, what happened to them remains unsolved. The inclusion of the craniums on a stake suggests that it may have been a post-mortem ritual carried out by the perpetrator. Others have put forth the idea that it was a way of honoring respected members posthumously. With it being the first confirmed case of this display during the period, it's impossible to tell which one is more likely. Number 35. The Dekis Delta Stone Spheres.
Requerían una gran inversión de trabajo. Ubicar la materia prima, trasladarla por grandes distancias.
They may not be the most extravagant, but they've still become one of history's most compelling conundrums. Costa Rica's almost perfectly spherical stones have been the source of a long global conversation. Not only are they a possible connection to the now extinct Dekis Society, the way they were created and why has remained a mystery. There are hundreds of these spheres, with plenty of myths and theories attempting to explain them. They range from plausible, such as the belief that they were naturally formed, to impossible, like the theory that they were brought to land from Atlantis. Their purpose is also unknown, although a recent theory posits that they may have been a model of the universe according to their creators. Number 34. The Lead Masks Case.
After decades, experts are still baffled by the cause of Miguel Jose Viana and Manuel Pereira da Cruz's deaths.
Some demises are so bizarre that they may never be solved. This, unfortunately, is the case of the victims of the lead masks case. Manuel Pereira da Cruz and Miguel José Viana were found dead in 1966. In the decades since, nothing pertaining to their death has been confirmed. They were both wearing lead eye masks, which only scratches the surface of what was discovered. A cryptic note, towels, and a water bottle were the only evidence left.
Viana and de Cruz were both electrical technicians who told their families they were leaving to buy supplies. The bartender who sold them water described Miguel as very nervous and repeatedly looking at his watch.
The most glaring aspect is that there were no signs of violent injury. However, the autopsy taking weeks to get done made it impossible to find what killed them. This led people to create their own theories, but as of 2025, none has been proven.
A woman and her children who lived next to the hill where the men died claimed they had seen an orangey, oval-shaped UFO flying over the spot at the moment the detectives believed the men had died.
Number 33, Judaculla Rock.
It is a part of the story of who we are. It is a definer of what is being a Cherokee.
Even something as seemingly simple as a rock can have a rich background. Deep within North Carolina lies Judaculla Rock, a boulder inscribed with petroglyphs and engravings. Each carving is a small clue about when it first started being worked on, with the guesses going as far back as 200 CE. While it's unknown exactly what all of the various inscriptions mean, one widely supported theory is that it depicts the land inhabited by the Cherokee until their forced removal in 1838. This has been corroborated by modern-day tribe members as well. If this is true, it would give us incredible insight into the history of the area before it was fully settled.
It gives me a place on the face of the earth that I've been granted to share with my relatives. It tells me that I'm home.
Number 32, the murder of Julia Wallace.
The story's main protagonist may well have committed the impossible murder.
What first appeared to be an open and shut case has spiraled into an unending mystery. It was a seemingly normal evening in 1931 when William Herbert Wallace was instructed to meet with a potential new customer at a non-existent address. When he finally gave up and returned home, he was met with the gruesome sight of his wife Julia, who had been brutally slain.
Was it a robbery gone wrong? But Julia's purse had not been touched, and anyway, how could a burglar have got into a locked house? There were no signs of a forced entry.
Her husband became the prime suspect, and after a short trial, he was found guilty and given the death penalty. Before that could come to fruition, it was overturned due to the evidence convicting him being purely circumstantial. Since then, there hasn't been another suspect brought to court or even questioned. And to this day, Julia's murderer has gotten away with it. Number 31, Codex Gigas. It may be the largest known Bible in existence, but that hasn't stopped it from baffling historians. Codex Gigas consists not only of both testaments, but a series of other popular works as well. It was supposedly written in the 13th century by Herman the Recluse, a prisoner who was sentenced to death, unless he could write a text encasing all of human knowledge in one night. He allegedly prayed to the devil in order to finish it, which could explain the large drawing depicting him.
"Help me finish this book," cries the monk, "and you can take my soul." Lucifer, not one to pass up such a great deal, agrees.
A modern-day test showed it would have taken at least 20 years to complete. Yet, according to other experts, it was the work of one person. The truth could be somewhere in the middle, but at this point, we may never know.
Some people have said the Devil's Bible is cursed and will bring misfortune on anyone that goes near it.
Number 30, the Circleville Letters. Living in a small town seems ideal, until you're suddenly thrown into a real-life horror movie. Circleville, Ohio is a seemingly normal place with a true crime mystery that spanned decades. It began in the 1970s when a suspicious death led to citizens receiving unsettling letters.
"This is no joke. Please take it serious."
The content ranged from accusations of infidelity and police cover-ups to thinly veiled threats of violence. The correspondence escalated, and eventually, the writer attempted to take someone's life.
On closer examination, Mary realized that it was a crude booby trap designed to fire the gun at her.
Even after an arrest and conviction, the mail kept coming, making people realize they might have had the wrong person. They continued to be terrorized for years until their primary suspect had been released. To this day, no one truly knows who was behind the frightening messages or if they'll ever return.
So many questions remain in this most bizarre case.
Number 29. Sacsayhuaman. Some earlier civilizations were able to erect impressive structures that have lasted into modern times. Some are so well built that you'd think that they could have only been accomplished with newer equipment. One such example is Sacsayhuaman, a fortified wall that was constructed by the Incas centuries ago. It's so precisely assembled that the details of its construction are the subject of a long-lasting debate. Some argue that the stones were pre-cut and lowered onto one another, while others think that they were towed into place. Both theories have been tested, with inconclusive results. The actual answer remains a secret, one that we may never get to find out. Number 28. Rongo Rongo. The foundations of communication, verbal or not, have long been studied. Some of the earliest attempts at language have been observed, but not all are easy to parse, such as Rongo Rongo.
Rongo Rongo is the traditional writing system of the Rapa Nui. It is inscribed onto wooden tablets.
Unearthed on Easter Island in the 19th century, it is a series of tablets inscribed with different glyphs, and is supposedly one of the oldest preserved forms of writing. It's an extraordinary archaeological find that no one can figure out.
It's one of the most unique and beautiful forms of knowledge of art in the world.
Several efforts to translate the slabs have been made, with no solid verdict. In 1995, one linguist claimed that they were primarily creation chants. However, his conclusions are still being questioned today, making this one of the toughest historical nuts to crack.
It's unique, and if we lose it, we lose part of the history of Rapa Nui.
Number 27. Tonis Heraklion. Although we already know ancient cities existed, finding the remains of one can still feel unreal, especially when they're underwater. Throughout most of contemporary history, Tonis and Heraklion were assumed to have been two separate areas that existed at the same time. However, the discovery of artifacts in Abu Qir Bay led to the shocking realization that they had been one combined state the entire time.
These fascinating artifacts from lost Egyptian cities were discovered.
While that answered one question, that didn't stop others from popping up. No one is sure how the municipality met its fate, although examiners have suggested that severe flooding could have been the cause.
The once magnificent Egyptian cities of Tonis Heraklion and Canopus, buried under the sea.
Beyond that, less than 10% of the city has been found, meaning there are plenty of other old conundrums that could potentially be solved soon.
The sea had reclaimed the cities where they laid undiscovered for over 1,000 years.
Number 26. The Potomsky Crater. This seemingly simple rock formation has been throwing scientists for a loop since 1949.
Siberia is famous for meteor strikes. But meteors don't usually make craters shaped like this.
Located in Siberia, the Potomsky crater consists entirely of broken limestone and covers a wide expanse of ground throughout the Potom Highlands. Since it was found, there's been non-stop supposition about its origins. The most popular thesis is that it was caused by a meteor crashing to Earth. However, some believe that a volcanic eruption was responsible.
Some believe it's cursed, and that those who go there will die.
The dispute became so heated that a conference was held in 2010 to discuss each proposition. Physical markings on the crater have revealed flaws in every hypothesis, but that hasn't stopped researchers from searching for the answer.
I see why it's inspired so many crazy stories.
Number 25. The Yonaguni Monument. While humans can take credit for most existing structures, there are some that are questionable, especially when they exist underwater. Beneath the depths of the Philippine Sea lies the Yonaguni Monument, an alleged pyramid complete with stairs.
The main structure is over 500 feet long, almost the length of 2 football fields.
Its appearance has led people to believe that it was a human-made creation that succumbed to nature and sank below the surface. However, not everyone is so sure. Some geologists have posited that it was formed naturally, citing erosion as the most probable cause.
The
man who initially discovered Yonaguni disagreed, even suggesting it was proof of the fabled lost continent Mu. While research seems to support the logical reasoning, there hasn't been irrefutable evidence disproving him yet.
If these stone structures were in fact created by humans, then they would have had to have been carved when the monument was above water.
Number 24. The Paracas Candelabra. An engraving found by the Paracas Bay in Peru is one of the more peculiar mysteries. It measures 600 feet tall and is visible from a dozen miles away. Everything about it baffles historians, from its purpose to how it was made. Its age is also contested, although objects found nearby suggest it's been there since 200 BCE. It isn't even known if the society living there at the time had any hand in building it. Its mysterious beginnings have remained elusive to this day. Considering how much we've been able to learn about our past, the fact that we know next to nothing about something so massive is truly mind-blowing. Number 23. The Hessdalen Lights. Unidentified lights aren't a new phenomenon. The Hessdalen Lights have been seen in Norway since the 1930s, but no one is certain what causes them.
And we saw this huge light in the mountainside.
They vary in color and speed, leading to constant speculation. There are different ideas, both realistic and fantastical. While there are the usual declarations of them being extraterrestrial in origin, some of the more prominent theories suggest they're the outcome of aerial dust particles caused by mining.
It can move slowly and it can move very fast. No sound.
There are even suggestions that radioactivity could be behind the spectacle. While these proposals make sense, the lack of a concrete explanation has led to people staunchly concluding they're signs of otherworldly life.
It must be something new.
Number 22. The Sodders. Even though they lost their home, it still wasn't the biggest tragedy they faced that fateful night. It was Christmas Eve in 1945 when the Sodder family home suddenly caught on fire. While both parents and 4 of their children managed to escape, the other 5 were seemingly trapped inside. Though they had been told their children's bodies had burned up, they weren't quite so convinced. The discovery that their phone line had been cut led them to believe their children were still alive and somewhere out there. This spiraled into a long-lasting investigation, where others claimed to see the missing youths for years afterwards. Even though the last known Sodder passed in 2021, the search is still kept alive thanks to various web forums. Number 21. The Shugborough Inscription. On an outwardly inconspicuous monument in England is a cipher that has mystified countless individuals. Many have tried to take a crack at the 18th century message, essentially a series of letters, with little success.
Letters carved into the marble below are seen by some as part of a secret code.
The estimations range wildly, with even a few delving into conspiracy theory status. Some have opted for a more natural reasoning, such as it being a basic tribute.
Those who believe it could be the key to an ancient mystery claim that the DM code was mentioned by the infamous 16th century prophet of doom, Nostradamus.
However, there's a large subset that's convinced there's a deeper meaning, even believing it's a clue that eventually leads to buried treasure. The truth is still sought after today, and the memorial serves as proof that even something mundane can be the source of ceaseless discussion.
The DM code is a relatively modern invention, yet people have been trying to decipher it for more than 200 years.
Number 20. The Toynbee Tiles. Boston, Kansas City, Rio de Janeiro, Buenos Aires. What do all of these locations have in common? In all of these cities and many more, embedded in seemingly random streets, are linoleum tiles containing cryptic messages about death.
New York, DC, Boston, the person who made them was a complete mystery.
The phrase "resurrect dead on planet Jupiter" is present on many of the tiles, as well as references to Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey. A couple of different theories have been put forth as to the identity of the tiler, including a 2011 documentary, but no proof or admission from the tiler has confirmed any of them. If it were one person, why go through the trouble of traveling around the world? Number 19. The Hornet Spooklight.
It seems a lot higher than the old days, and it's behind us. We actually came down pretty far into it, but it seems to be back there. We had a neighbor stop by and says it doesn't even live here.
What's in a name? Well, judging by the spooky phenomena that occurs in the Devil's Promenade west of Hornet, Missouri, sometimes a lot. Also known as the Hollis Light, the Spook Light is a ball or group of lights that's been sighted numerous times around the border between Missouri and Oklahoma.
And then some nights they're spectacular and they're frightening.
People have proposed explanations that range from headlights on Route 66 to atmospheric gases to the spirits of 2 Quapaw lovers who ran away together. Oh yeah, and aliens, obviously. Over the years, a few investigators have laid out evidence for the headlights' explanation. But there are still true believers who think there must be something more to the tale.
We believe it's likely that any of the headlights from any cars coming all the way down this long hill to this point could be the ambience of the spook line.
Number 18, the Overtoun Bridge. Don't bring your dogs near this next mystery. The Overtoun Bridge in Scotland is a seemingly normal bridge like any other, except for the staggering amount of dogs that have jumped to their deaths from the structure.
You just looked up and leapt right over the bridge.
Local tabloids have estimated that around 600 dogs have leaped off this bridge, seemingly for no reason.
I started shouting to David, "Sophie's jumped off the bridge, she's jumped off the bridge." It just happened so fast, seconds.
Residents tell of their dogs pausing on the bridge as if possessed before unexpectedly jumping. Some dogs have reportedly jumped twice. Paranormal theories abound, including spirits and ghosts, while the most scientific explanation is that the dogs are smelling wildlife below.
They've no concept of what's on the other side. They can't see the drop.
But if that's the case, why this bridge in particular? Number 17, the Devil's Footprints. One winter morning in 1855, residents of Devon, England woke to find an eerie phenomenon. Hoof prints, some 4 inches long, were found across 40 to 100 miles of snow, as well as on roofs, walls, and even in drain pipes. Residents might have been able to write the markings off as belonging to a donkey or another animal, except they appeared in a variety of unreachable places. Even stranger, they were all in a single line instead of alternating left and right. No animal walks in such a unique way. To this day, no satisfactory theory exists, but residents think it was Satan himself. Number 16, the disappearance of Benjamin Bathurst. Try rationalizing this one. Benjamin Bathurst was a British diplomat in the 19th century. He was traveling through Germany in November 1809 with his aide Herr Krause when something strange happened. They were walking to the carriage together, but when Krause got in, he suddenly couldn't find Bathurst. Investigations uncovered his valuable fur coat in an outhouse and pantaloons miles away in the woods. His wife spent a fortune trying to find him, but to no avail. It's thought he was murdered, and a possible skeleton was found many years later. Bathurst was known to carry pistols. How could no one have seen or heard him being taken? Number 15, the Phantom Barber. There was more to worry about than World War II in the small town of Pascagoula, Mississippi in 1942. A mysterious person dressed in white began sneaking into homes and cutting off locks of people's hair in the middle of the night. This phantom seemed to prefer blonde hair, and he was rarely seen in the act. Though his intrusions were usually non-violent, police think he used chloroform to knock out a victim. And on one occasion, he beat a couple unconscious with an iron bar. A suspect was later arrested and then released. No definitive identity has ever been given for this ghastly figure. Number 14, the Pollock twins. Sisters Joanna and Jacqueline Pollock were 11 and 6 years old respectively when they were killed in a car accident. The devastated parents decided to have another child and gave birth to twins, Jillian and Jennifer. These twins shared so many similarities with the deceased sisters, including birthmarks, behaviors, and preferences, as well as memories from before the accident, that they seemed to be perfect reincarnations. Many simply dismissed the case as a hoax, but both parents were convinced that these twins were their original daughters. The case is often touted as evidence of true resurrection. Number 13, sleeping sickness. This is a scary one. A sickness began sweeping through the world shortly after World War I, and it would become so widespread it became an epidemic. It was called lethargic encephalitis, and it put people in a sort of coma where they were conscious but unable to speak or move, like living statues. Close to 1 million people died, and millions more were helplessly trapped in their bodies. No scientist to this day can explain what this sickness was or how it spread, and it is one of the biggest medical mysteries in history. Number 12, the Aurora incident. We've all heard of Roswell, but have you heard of the alien shipwreck in Aurora, Texas? In 1897, an airship that looked like a cigar allegedly collided with a windmill and exploded. People reported seeing a non-human pilot and papers with an unrecognizable language that resembled hieroglyphics. The pilot was supposedly buried, but the grave marker disappeared. The cemetery declined a request from the Mutual UFO Network to exhume the site.
The dear Lord is powerful enough that if he wanted to create another universe and other people, he could have done it.
Conspiracy theorists believe the wreckage was confiscated by the military, so all that's left are accounts and memories. Was this a misconstrued event or a real alien shipwreck? Number 11. The Big Grey Man. The Big Grey Man, known as Am Fair Lia Moor in Scottish Gaelic, is not actually a man. It's said to be a creature or spirit living in the isolated Cairngorms Mountains in Scotland. Various accounts of the creature tell of a tall specter shrouded in mist that inflicts terrible fear and panic in the victims. Nearly all accounts report footsteps following them in the gravel before they encounter the entity.
You gonna help me up or what?
Another explanation that's been proposed is that it's a Brocken specter, where the user's shadow is enlarged on a cloud bank. We sure hope so. Number 10. The Flannan Isles Lighthouse. In December of 1900, 3 lighthouse keepers mysteriously vanished without a trace on the uninhabited island of Eilean Moor. When people went to check on them, they found a spare oilskin and unmade beds, suggesting something suddenly aroused them from their sleep. The mechanical clocks had not been wound for some time either. No evidence of foul play was found, and the bodies were never seen again. The leading theory is that waves pulled them into the Atlantic Ocean, but it's forbidden to leave the lighthouse unmanned. So why did they all venture outside? And why did one leave his oilskin suit? It may forever be a mystery. Number 9. The Dancing Plague of 1518. In 1518, in the Holy Roman Empire, the city of Strasbourg was reportedly struck with one of the strangest plagues in history: an inability to stop dancing. What started with one woman busting some moves somehow turned into mass hysteria that lasted for days. Residents found themselves unable to stop, and some sources report that many danced themselves to death. To this day, no one knows what really happened. Some believe the residents had ingested ergot, a hallucinogenic fungi, while others point to stress-induced hysteria. Oddly enough, this plague also reportedly occurred in Switzerland, Holland, and Germany, though not to the same extent. Number 8. The Nazca Lines.
These lines are incredibly long, perhaps miles, and they're straight as a ruler.
One glyph is mysterious enough. Over 700 seems unfathomable, yet the Nazca Lines still continue to amaze today. They span across 2 distinct eras in history, capturing 2 different cultures' work. They take the shape of organisms, from trees to hummingbirds, and even one that seemingly depicts an astronaut. This could tie into the possible reasons for the line's creation. It's been theorized that they could either depict constellations noticed by civilians, or could be the marker of a place to observe the stars. The theories don't stop there. There are some that adamantly believe that they are a landing place for aliens to use. Though the reasoning is more likely much more realistic, no historian has been able to quite wrap their heads around them.
From on high, you can see the Nazca Lines are massive geoglyphs, the largest ever made.
But why are they here, in the middle of a vast and empty desert?
Number 7. Bimini Road. This strange rock formation is located in the Bahamas. The underwater path stretches for exactly half a mile before ending abruptly. The limestone blocks seem to have been precisely cut and stacked, leading some to claim that it must have been human-made.
And all the indications are that it goes back to the end of the last ice age and is probably around 11 to 12,000 years old.
What makes this even stranger is that some 30 years before divers discovered it, modern prophet Edgar Cayce said that the road leading to the lost city of Atlantis was near Bimini. Geologists argue that this is a naturally occurring formation, but there are still believers who argue that it must have been built by an ancient civilization. Number 6. The disappearance of the USS Cyclops. It's one thing when a small dinghy vanishes, but how does the largest ship in the Navy suddenly disappear? That's what happened in 1918 when the USS Cyclops was making a trip to Baltimore. The last message sent from the ship is simple, quote, "Weather fair, all well." Normally, when ships disappear, some remnant or flotsam of the vessel washes ashore, but nothing whatsoever has been found of the Cyclops. Even more eerily, it vanished within the infamous Bermuda Triangle. No enemy ships were ever reported in the region. The Navy has called it one of the most confusing mysteries in its history. Number 5. The Ghost Blimp. Picture it. 1942 off the coast of California. 2 U.S. Navy pilots command the Navy's L-8 blimp in search of Japanese submarines in waters not so far from San Francisco.
There were known to be Japanese submarines operating off the coast. There had been an attack on
an oil refinery down near Santa Monica, Los Angeles. There was a great fear that there would be more attacks.
They radio flight control about an oil slick on the water and are never heard from again. A few hours later, that very same L-8 blimp crashes into a cliff with no one on board. Everything in or about the craft was working normally, the throttles were idle, and more eerily, the parachutes and lifeboat were still on board. To this day, no one knows what happened, and the personnel involved were never found. Number 4, the Bay of Jars. Brazil's Guanabara Bay contains a lot of trash, but the trash that people cannot explain is the 200 or so Roman ceramic jars found submerged in an underwater field the size of 3 tennis courts. According to experts, these jars trace back to the 3rd century. However, European explorers didn't even reach Brazil until 1500, and the Romans themselves had little to no incentive to travel that far out. Thus, it's a complete mystery why their artifacts would be found there. Meanwhile, Brazil closed off the area in 1983, so it's unlikely an answer will ever be found. Number 3, the Voynich Manuscript. If you haven't heard of this one, strap in. The Voynich Manuscript is a mysterious 250-page book written in a completely unknown language and containing odd, otherworldly sketches.
There are theories that the book might have been written in a kind of encoded Latin, or that an alien wrote it while being held captive in a monastery, or that Leonardo da Vinci wrote it as a child.
Its origin is unable to be fully traced, so no one knows who created it, let alone why, but carbon dating puts it in the early 15th century.
Cryptologists say the writing has all the characteristics of a real language, just one that no one's ever seen before. What makes it seem real is that in actual languages, letters and groups of letters appear with consistent frequencies, and the language in the Voynich manuscript has patterns you wouldn't find from a random letter generator.
So far, no one has been able to decode the script it's written in, despite being worked on by professional code breakers from both World War I and World War II. What strange message lies inside this uncrackable book?
The truth is, after decades of dedicated study to try and solve the mystery, this strange book seems likely to remain one of our most enduring historical codes to crack.
Number 2, the Max Headroom hijack. In 1987, 2 television stations in Chicago were hijacked in perhaps the most surreal act of video piracy ever recorded.
It takes some pretty significant equipment, technical equipment, and some knowledge of broadcast frequencies, microwave frequencies, and a lot of power.
Both instances featured an unidentified man dressed as obscure TV personality Max Headroom dancing to distorted audio. The second video, significantly longer, saw the man rambling incoherently in a distorted voice and being swatted on the behind by an off-screen accomplice.
Because he's a freaking nerd. I think I'm better than Chips Worsty. Freaking oh, Jesus.
The segments lasted no more than a couple of minutes, but have gone down as among the most notorious incidents in television history. No one has ever identified who pulled it off or even why. We can only hope someone comes forward after all this time to put an end to this mystery.
My brother is wearing the other one, but it's dirty. It's got footprints on it.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. The Green Children of Woolpit. According to legend, in the 12th century, 2 children were found in the village of Woolpit, England. Their skin was green, they spoke gibberish, and they only ate broad beans. Eventually, they learned to eat normal food and speak English, and they claimed they were from a different world where there was no sun. The boy soon died of a mysterious illness, but the girl lived on. A few accounts from around the same time reference the tale. One leading theory proposes that the children were lost and malnourished Flemish immigrants from another town in Suffolk. Others claim they were extraterrestrials, or from inside the Earth itself. Have you ever heard of any of these obscure mysteries? Let us know in the comments below.
But if the shroud is truly from the 1st century, an event from the Bible might reveal an answer.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.